What's going on, guys? I'm the Walrus Jedi, and welcome to a video. Today, I found this article. It's a few years old, but let's see what 5 things the EU did better than Disney and 5 that apparently Disney has done better. So, if you like these kinds of videos, then please consider liking and subscribing and hitting the notification bell for more. As well as, check out my eBay. I've got some Star Wars sets, an Epic collection, Scooby-Doo set, a Tony Stark figure, and a couple of Survivor buffs if you're interested. Some club magazines. Yeah, just check it out. Link in the description if you're interested. Get back to the video. Without further ado, let's get to the article. Alright, so we got a picture of Malak and Revan. That's cool. When Disney took over Lucasfilm and Star Wars from George Lucas in 2012, a lot of exciting times came for the Star Wars fandom with the new films, as well as new books, comics, video games, and TV shows, all on the way. The other side of that, though, was the removal of the expanded universe from canon. That removal of the expanded universe has left a bitter taste in many fans' mouths. The debate has since raged on over what has done better, the EU or Disney. It's the EU. So, here are 5 things that the expanded universe did better than Disney and 5 things that Disney has done better. So I think this is the first thing that the EU's done better. The Empire, Post Return of the Jedi. Well, of course, there's loads of books on that stuff. After the Emperor's death in Return of the Jedi, Operation Cinder occurs. This is seen in Battlefront 2. From there, the rebels fight to defeat it, with the war going on for about 1 year. In the EU, however, the war against the Empire raged on for 15 years, and they could not be wiped out with one blow. Imperial warlords and loyalists kept it alive. Even after the Emperor's galactic empire, the Empire went on in one form or another for a century after Return of the Jedi. A much more exciting and action-packed end to the faction. I'll agree with that. I don't think it makes sense in Disney canon for the war to go on for about another year and then it's all done and they got it all mopped up. I think the Imperial Remnant and all these splintered factions of the Empire would have taken longer than a year to clean up. So I think it makes a little bit more sense. Disney, it all connects to the films. Oh, no it doesn't. And Disney does this better than the EU? Let's see what it says. A lot of the EU is very disjointed. Much of it did not add anything to the established Star Wars canon. I think I disagree with that. And while there was a lot that did, Disney has done a far better job of making the content feel more important. Except when they take this book or comic and throw it out the window because, hey, I want to tell that story, so we'll just write over it. In the EU, they didn't do that, so I disagree with that. Everything Disney makes, from the books to shows to comics to video games, all connect in one small way or another to the films. It feels more important to read the oh, no it doesn't. And play the campaigns under the current Lucasfilm banner, as it feels like it will be paid off for doing so. While not everything does pay off, it mostly still feels important in some way. Okay. EU. Better original stories, which were not used to prop up a film or show. That's kind of all Disney books, the Disney Star Wars stuff. A lot of it is just, hey, let's fill in this tiny little hole with useless information. Alright. On the flip side, though, the quality of some Disney books and comics do not reach their full potential because they feel like they only exist to build up to a film, or to make it better, or explain something that is not clear in said film. The EU does not have that issue. The EU created great stories for the sake of creating great stories that enriched the lore and expanded the universe. Hence the name. Yeah. The Thrawn trilogy was not created to make Return of the Jedi a better movie. It was created as a fantastic story with a brilliant character beloved by fans. Yep. Alright. Disney. Oh. The ratio of good to bad content is better than the EU? This is a point that will be argued by those with a blind hatred of the new canon and adoration for the EU. But the EU was full of really awful stuff, just as much awful stuff, in fact, as there was good stuff. I disagree with that. In my experience, it's mostly pretty good stuff. Now, I haven't experienced everything, nor have I experienced everything in Disney canon, but the vast majority of Disney canon is really awful stuff, to use their wording. Well, I think this is incorrect. The new canon does not have this issue. Oh, really? There's barely any bad stuff in the new canon. Out of 3 video games, only one of them can be argued as bad. The movies are all extremely well made, if you say so. The comics are far more hit than miss. No, they're not. And the same applies to the novels. The novels are better than the comics, but they're still kind of duds. The TV shows, too. Rebels and The Mandalorian are great, whereas the EU TV shows are incredibly poor, except the original Clone Wars miniseries, which was decent. Well, Droids and Ewoks shows, they were made a while ago, in the 80s. Their purpose was to make some shows for kids, so they weren't going to spend millions and millions of dollars on these shows. They did their job. Disagree with that. EU video games. This may be argued as unfair since the new canon is only technically over 5 years old. Well, buddy, we're 5 years after this article came out, and EU still has much more in the video game department than Disney canon will ever have. And since Jedi Fallen Order is one of the finest Star Wars games out there, but it does not change the fact that the EU is just better at producing quality video games. True. Look at any 5 years of Star Wars after they began releasing games, and they released 3 or more than Disney has managed. From the first game, Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, in 1982 to 1987, there were 7 games released. From 2000 to 2005, there were a ton of Star Wars games, including both Battlefronts, both Knights of the Old Republic games, 2 entries into the Jedi Knight franchise, Republic Commando, and a whole host more. Yeah, and the thing is, there's a lot of games, and the quality was all still pretty good on most of them. There really wasn't a whole lot of bad in that. Disney, the first 5 years. The EU properly kicked off with the Thrawn trilogy in 91, but no matter what anyone says, there is still content before that point, and not much of it is memorable, if any. In the first 5 years after Return of the Jedi, or even just after A New Hope, there is odd bits, but nothing major. In the Disney canon, the first 5 years have seen 3 full-length TV shows, video games, a plethora of brilliant comics, and another plethora of terrific books. Whereas the EU has 30 plus years of content, the Disney canon is just beginning and is already off to a much, much better start and does not look to be slowing down. If you say so. Yeah, I think you could say that the weakest part of the EU in terms of time period is probably the beginning. You know, the stuff around the movies coming out, comics, a couple of novels. I don't think anyone would say that's the best Star Wars has ever been. It got much, much better from there, and quite frankly, so what if the beginning's a little weak? The rest of the EU is pretty strong. EU expanded on all eras. Yep. One thing Disney canon has been criticized for is for focusing too heavily on the era of the Rebellion and Empire. Books and comics are exploring the sequels and some of the Clone War era, but not enough. The EU, on the other hand, had an insurmountable amount of content for all eras. It had a plenitude of content regarding the era of the Rebellion and Empire, insane amounts on the prequel era. Some of its best content was the brilliance of the Old Republic era, and even further back. The Disney canon will likely focus on these eras soon, but they need to get to it before the repetition gets stagnant. Disney, lack of utterly laughable nonsense. Have you seen Geode? Literally a slab of rock? I mean, that's kind of goofy. Like, that's kind of goofy. The Disney canon, of course, is not all great. There are some lackluster quality things within it. Some content that is too childish, some boring, and of course, everyone has their own opinions on the movies. Yeah, they suck. But one thing there is none of in the Disney canon is the stuff that compares to the nonsense of the EU. If you say so, oh, what are they going to mention? There is no depressed mountain whose tears can cure anything. Nor is there Chewbacca being killed by a moon. That's not goofy. Well, I haven't read it, but I've heard that you read it, it's not goofy. Multiple Emperor clones. Or Luke falling in love with the AI of a ship. It's not an AI of a ship. It's a lady that downloaded her consciousness into the ship. It's not an AI of the ship. The EU contains so much ridiculous, laughable nonsense that the Disney canon will never see. Okay, like, wow, are you sure? Okay, if you say so. EU, a variety of badass Sith Lords that Disney canon still doesn't have. Barely touched the Sith. This ties into the point before, about Disney being too fixated on one era. They do not have any non-movie Sith Lords that are just simply fantastic. There is Maul, Vader, Palpatine, Dooku, etc., who are all great, but there needs to be more. Sith such as Darth Revan, Malgus, Bane, Plagueis, Vitiate, Exar Kun, Kree, Darth Nihilus, and a host more. Some of these Sith are canon, but are done so pathetically, like Revan, who was very recently made canon via a reference book. Disney needs to up their game massively if they want to come anywhere close to the EU on this front. Well, good luck. They got a long ways to go before they... Disney, Vader, okay? I don't think so. This could depend on personal taste, but we see it as no contest as perhaps the biggest thing Disney does better than the EU, and that is the handling of Star Wars' most iconic character, Darth Vader. Have you seen Kenobi? Of course, when this article was written, Kenobi didn't come out yet. Vader is kind of misused in that. Comics are not that great. In the EU, Vader is immensely powerful and forceful, yes. He performs unbelievable feats of power, and it is great to see and read about. But he is overshadowed because every Sith Lord in Legends is overpowered and does these things. In canon, through the comics, etc., Vader is a massive badass. See Rogue One. But also the deep dive into the mental and emotional state of the character is phenomenal. His pain, his suffering, his anger, his power, it is all explored expertly in canon and will continue to be for years. I disagree with that. I think they've, like every other important character, Disney has bungled and ruined and tainted. You know, Luke, Han, Leia, Boba Fett, Darth Vader, who else? They really haven't ruined Yoda because he hasn't been it. But then again, Force Ghost calling lightning is kind of weird. I don't think that makes sense. Yeah, they've ruined Obi-Wan because of the Obi-Wan show. Yeah, they've ruined a lot of characters. I still don't think it's any contest. I think the EU is vastly superior to Disney canon. There's more issues and errors in terms of continuity in the, little over a decade that it's existed than the entirety of the EU. Well, let me know what you thought of these points. Are there any that you agree with, disagree with? Feel free to share in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and until next time, thanks for watching.